Good evening, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to you all. The Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha, Mr. Naveen Patnaik, Mr. Conclave Odisha, who was Chairman of 5T, distinguished speakers who've been here before, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of India Today magazine, we are honored and delighted to welcome the 5-term Chief Minister, Naveen Patnaik, to the India Today State of the State, Odisha. Mr. Patnaik, you are now the second longest serving Chief Minister of the country, having served Odisha for 24 years. By all indications, you are likely to be re-elected again as Chief Minister in the Assembly elections to happen soon. And of course, once you do that, you're touching wood, I see. you will overtake the record set by Pawan Chamling of Sikkim, who held it for 25 years. So we wish you all the very best on that endeavor. But I know, Chief Minister, of course, I know, Chief Minister, you're not one to set records. Ever since you took over as Chief Minister, you have worked to transform Odisha from one of the most backward states in the country to one of the most progressive states in India. Let's give him a very warm round of applause for that. In fact, I've been watching the Chief Minister very closely. I've interviewed him and observed the way he runs the state. We could call it the Odisha model of governance. And even more, maybe, the Naveen Patnaik model of governance on this. Without doubt, sir, you have created Naveen Odisha. Your name is Naveen, which means new, but this is Naveen of Odisha. Now, one of the things we've noticed, sir, is that while you've been very generous with your welfare programs, for some reason, you're very sparse with your words. You've always been reticent about your success. And I remember once when I interviewed you a couple of years back and I asked you the reason, you said, I believe that when your work speaks for itself, then let it do so. Well, Chief Minister, let me tell you that right throughout today, your work has been spoken loudly. We've had a whole gamut of speakers and sessions that talked about industry in Odisha, skill development, education, health, sports, startups, and women's development. And the common theme that we found that ran through these entire set of discussions was, firstly, the remarkable growth that Odisha had showed. And secondly, they said there were 3 major reasons why this was true. The first was your visionary leadership. The second was the political stability you have ensured. And the third was the unique style of governance that you brought about. So in each of these, they reflected in some senses your 5 Ts, the new mantra of development that you've evolved. And that is, I think everybody knows it in Odisha now, but for those, for the nation, teamwork, technology, transparency, transformation, and time limit. And you've put your trusted aide, Conclave Odisha, as the chairman of the 5T initiative, and the transformation is evident everywhere. I have seen videos. I had the privilege of seeing some videos along with Mr. Pandian yesterday. And one thing I would like to go and see is the Parakrama at Sri Jagannath Mandir over there. And not only has it been, from what I could see, restored to its original glory, and it's probably even better. If you lived at that age, it's probably even better. And like that, you have renovated thousands of temples, I'm told. And not just temples, mosques and churches. And gurudwaras, yes. And I do remember words that you said, and it's also in your website. You said, every bone of mine is secular. And you have demonstrated that you can not only develop temples and everything else, but be secularly in your approach to religion. And let's give them a very warm round of applause for that. The other aspect, and I'm only talking of a few of the big achievements that you've had, sir. I remember that you had called me to witness the hockey finals when it was here in Odisha. You have made Odisha the hockey capital of the world. And if you take a look at what we had during the sports session, one of the things that David John, the director of Odisha Hockey, said, he said, and he told this audience that Odisha spends more money on its hockey team than the entire national team does on itself. That itself is a statement. I've also seen how you've transformed schools, you've transformed hospitals, and in fact, some of the videos that I saw, I haven't had the privilege of going around, I'm sure those people in Odisha would have noticed it, they look like even better than private schools. I said, I'd like to study in this school now, in that sense. The other interesting thing is your connect with the people, sir. There is a scheme that while we are here, which one of the secretaries described as the Lakshmi scheme. I thought first it was Lakshmi, but it's spelled a little differently. Lakshmi, right? And that has buses, air-conditioned buses plying to every village across, transporting, allowing people to come, particularly women. That is a transformation. So let's give him a very warm round of applause for it, sir, for him. Now, Chief Minister, I know that a lot of your work speaks for itself. But I'm just going to take a few minutes of your time to talk about some hard figures that we have done. India Today has done the research on the state of Odisha and the functioning of your leadership. And this was done specially for the conclave here. And we had MDRA, which is one of the leading research agencies, which in fact does our State of the States conclave and State of the State conclave. And this is an independent analysis of how Odisha performs. And I'm just going to give you a few things which will be interesting to you. There are also some things where improvement is needed, which I'll mention. But first, let's start with what is very impressive about Odisha's development. And these are the latest figures. You know how difficult it is to get statistics in India. But we have been able to get our research agency to do it update. And let us look at per capita income. Just not growth. Per capita income is critical to see if people's lives have improved considerably, not just the GDP growth. And if you look at that, Odisha's per capita income has grown 3 times between 2011-12 to now 2022-23. 3 times. And if you take the national average, it is only 2.7% times. So Odisha is much, much higher than the national average. And today its per capita income is around 1,50,000 per annum. And that is higher than all the other Bimaru states that's there except Rajasthan. Bimaru was the old acronym for all the poor states, which you know, sir, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. In fact, Odisha's per capita income today is higher than Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and even that of West Bengal. Even if you look at the growth, Odisha's GSDP growth in 22-23, this is the latest figures that we have, has grown by 7.8%, which is higher than the national GDP growth of 7%. That's again very creditable for a state that has, just started developing rapidly in the last 2 decades. It is overtaking the national average. Now, one of the things that is critical is employment in any state. And the labor force participation, the study shows Odisha's labor force participation rate in the age group of 15 to 59, which is the real working age group, is 62%, and it is higher than the national average of 60%. So again, that economic growth is not being converted into jobless growth, but job growth, employment, and that's very important. And let us look at some critical sectors. I talked of the hospitals earlier. The study shows that Odisha has allocated 8% of its total expenditure towards healthcare in 23-24. That is higher than all other states that only average 6%. So you are spending 2% more than any other state per person in Odisha. And I'll just give you that figure. The impressive thing is the health per person expenditure for Odisha is rupees 3,293 per annum, whereas the national average is rupees 1,974. So you're spending 60% more on health per individual. Now, the other aspect is dealing with multidimensional poverty. Here, the figures are very, very interesting. The percentage of population who are currently, who are multidimensionally poor, and earlier you would have said it would have been 70%, today it is 11% only. 11%. And I do recall, just 2 decades ago, it was close to 60% of the population that was below the poverty mark. And so, Mr. Patnaik, you now hold the record for pulling more people in your state out of poverty in the shortest possible time in the country. And let's give him a very warm round of applause for that. And it is not just in terms of welfare schemes and poverty that Odisha has shined. Very, very importantly, Mr. Patnaik in these 20 years has laid the foundation for industrial growth. And one of the indications of that is the expenditure towards roads and bridges. As we all know, transport is critical for connectivity. And there, Odisha has spent 8% of its total budget in 2023-24 towards transport, roads and bridges, which is much, much higher, 3% higher than any other state. The average allocation for other states is 5%. Odisha has spent 8% of that. And that is very creditable because not only have you, and if you look at the other side of it, the investment in agriculture, Odisha has moved from a food-starved state where starvation existed and all those reports we know in the 1990s to an absolutely food security state. And that transformation has happened in terms of agriculture. If you take a look at another aspect, which is critical to all our living, water and water supply and sanitation, here again, Odisha spends twice as much money than any other average state does. It spends 6%, the average is 3%. So you can see an all-round development, and if you take rural development itself, which is in many senses indicative, it spends 1% higher than all other states that is there. So in every aspect, when we look at it, and I'm going to give one final figure. I know this is loading you all with you, but one final figure I think is very important is Nari Shakti, women's empowerment. And if you look today, we saw today, sir, we had the Mission Shakti team come here and talk to us, and 2 women leaders that came and spoke. And there are 7 million mothers who are part of the self-help group, SHG group, and that is amazing. Okay, and if you look at an indication of that is in panchayat elections, okay, the third tier of governance, women representatives in Odisha and panchayats is 53%, which is 8% higher than the national average of 45%. And as we know, sir, women occupy half the sky. In your case, they're occupying a little more than half the sky, even more than men do. Normally, there's only about 20 to 30% representation in panchayats for women, but in the state of Odisha, it crosses that of men. And that's amazingly creditable for them. And finally, when you look at industry, I think that in terms of startups particularly, and we had a huge session on startups, Odisha is now the startup capital of the world, of India, and recently got a national award for that as well. Now, just a couple of points, sir. I know that we have talked of all where Odisha is shining. There are a few points that Odisha needs to focus on the years ahead, and the study shows that while there has been laudable progress in education, it needs to boost its expenditure on education. Currently, Odisha spends in this year 13%, which is still high, but the average percentage that is being spent is 15%. So probably that is one area. Second, if you look in terms of the unemployment rates, Odisha is a little higher than the national average in terms of unemployment, but the study emphasizes that while there's been remarkable growth in agriculture and manufacturing, possibly the answer lies in developing the service sector to catch up with the rest. And also it leads a little more on policing and security. But these, as I said, are just few of the points that the study showed where you could probably focus in your 6th term as Chief Minister and make the difference there. Finally, sir, let me talk about India Today's Mood of the Nation poll. We do this biannually, and one of the key questions we ask is, who do you consider as the best Chief Minister when it comes to home states? And not surprisingly, sir, you have been adjudged the best Chief Minister in this category for 2024. And let me add something more of this. This is the 7th consecutive time that you have won the most popular Chief Minister award for a home state. And so this is a record by itself, sir. And Mr. Patnaik, Chief Minister, sir, Arun Puri, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, who you know very well, regrets he could not be present here personally. to congratulate you on this, but he wanted me to convey his best wishes to you and to say particularly, and I'm quoting him, you're doing a great job as a chief minister and to keep it up. So, on behalf of India Today magazine, I have the privilege of handing the award to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give the Chief Minister of Odisha, Mr. Naveen Patnaik, a very warm round of applause for winning the Best Chief Minister Award in the India Today Mood of the Nation poll.
Joy Jagannath, Mr. Raj Chengappa, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Samastanku Namaskar. First, I would like to apologize for being so late. And I thank the India Today group for organizing State of the State Conclave Odisha 2024. It gives me great pleasure that today we are discussing our remarkable transformation, celebrating success in multiple fields, then dwelling on the pains of the past. Many devastating natural disasters tested our resilience, but through timely preparations and swift action, we emerged stronger. From a state of helplessness and despondency in the face of vagaries of nature, we stood stronger and showed the world how to save lives. Saving lives has been our guiding principle during COVID too. Apart from saving lives across Odisha, we supplied oxygen, a necessary component for COVID, to various states, saving lives across the country. We have witnessed remarkable transformation across every sphere. From almost zero investment 2 decades ago, we have emerged as a favorite destination for investment. Apart from emerging as a prime destination for manufacturing, we are attracting investment in several frontiers, technologies, including semiconductors. Today, Odisha is the aluminium capital of South Asia and the steel hub of the country. 2 decades ago, when I assumed charge, Odisha was in a severe financial mess. Now we are known across the country for our excellence in fiscal management. 2 decades ago, Odisha evoked a big picture of abject poverty and malnutrition. KBK regions were glamorized in the media as a postcard of poverty and malnutrition. But now this region is scaling new peaks of development every day, emerging as a rice bowl of the country. We have managed to reduce multiple dimensional poverty in Odisha by 48% in the last decade alone. More than 1 crore people escaped poverty during this period. I'd like to explain that when we took office more than 20 years ago, Odisha had 70% of its population living under the poverty line. Now, only 10% of that population lives under the poverty line, which we are still fighting to redress. From a non-existent player in the sports ecosystem, Odisha has emerged as a model in sports development. We are building an enviable sports ecosystem in the country. while our national hockey teams reached the podium after more than 4 decades in the Olympics, Odisha also basked in the glory of the nation with its partnership. Today, Odisha has emerged as a unique model in women's empowerment. After empowering our women under Mission Shakti, we are embarking on a new journey to make them entrepreneurs. Our party is one of the pioneers in women's empowerment, reserving 1/3 seats for women in the 2009 Lok Sabha elections. More than 50% of women are getting elected to grassroots democratic institutions. With the Biju Swasthya Kalyan Yojana, we have ensured that even the poorest person is not scared by the cost of treatment, which is made available to everyone. Our transformed classrooms with modern facilities have added wings to the dreams of future citizens and encouraged them to dream big. When we embarked on the journey of transformation, we made people as partners in progress. Banking on the principles of 5T, our singular vision is a new Odisha, an empowered Odisha. Our transformative journey is a journey of empowerment for each and every individual in Odisha. Today, as we stand at the cusp of a new era, let us recommit ourselves to building a new Odisha by 2036. That will be the guiding light to the entire nation on empowerment. Bande Utkal Janani.
Thank you, Chief Minister, for that very succinct. You've kept to form, but brilliantly enumerated your the transformation that you've brought to the state. I particularly like the words that you use, that people are a partner to the progress. It's not that they're isolated. You have taken them along at every step and ensured the transformation from one of the poorest states in the country to one of the most progressive and developed states that are happening. Let's give the Chief Minister a very warm round of applause for that, sir. And we just have a small token of appreciation, sir, which we'd like to present to you. It just could bring some memories back to you, sir.